For this lesson, we started our students learning about tall tales. So this is their first time being introduced to tall tales in this grade. So we started the lesson by asking the students if anyone could figure out what a tall tale was, or if they knew what a tall tale was. Many of the students were unable to give a clear answer of what a tall tale was. So we had to explain to them that tall tales are stories that are very difficult to believe. They're learning that it's just basically an exaggeration, which means that the story, it seems as if it's bigger than it actually is. We started our lesson on tall tales by introducing the students to the story of Paul Bunyan. The story of Paul Bunyan is an American folk tale with exaggerated characters. This lesson is being introduced through a read aloud story. While we're reading the story to the students, we also provided image cards that have some images from the story. So once we come upon certain passages within the story, we have image cards to show the students the photos of what was taking place within that story at the time. After the read aloud story is completed, for the students who are more visual, even though we provided the image cards, it still wasn't enough to connect the students to give them a clear picture and a clear definition of what a tall tale really was. So what we did was we showed them a video on YouTube of the Paul Bunyan story, and it was able to allow the children to connect more to the story than it did more than just through the reading and the image cards that were shown. So some of the things that were taking place within the story were not shown on the image card, but in the video it was all shown, and the students were able to connect with it to say, oh, that's what I heard in the story, or that is what took place in the story. The students had to, at the ending of the video, the students had to complete a worksheet. So they had to basically answer 10 questions on if something was, if it was a tall tale. They were given statements, and they had to decide if it was a tall tale, a fact, or an exaggeration. And we go back to that vocabulary word again, exaggeration, which means that it's just something that's more than it actually is. So the children had to decide which statements were a fact, which ones were an exaggeration, and which ones were a tall tale. So after that one now, then the students had to do a reading comprehension section where they had to see details, we had questions from the story, and the students had to give the answers. So all of the answers had to come from the story that they just listened to and that they just watched. So for our, what would we call them now? For our students, our focused learners, they are facing a lot more challenges because we know that a lot of them are unable to write the way that we need them to write, and a lot of them are struggling with their reading as well. So what we would do as we did as a teacher, we would sit with them. And then we would help them to read the story, go over their thoughts about what they think took place in the story, and then we would help them to formulate their answers to each question. So for them, they didn't have to answer all of the questions. They had to answer, I believe they had to answer 5 statement questions about whether it was a fact, a fiction, a tall tale, or an exaggeration. And for the reading comprehension questions, they had to answer 3. So that was just a way for them to be able to complete their work and not be overwhelmed by all that was taking place. Throughout the whole entire process, we were able to sit with the lowest group, and we were able to get them focused and to have them complete their work. And they were able to answer the questions on their own with just guidance from us.